Welcome back to the channel. We're playing 20 questions with.
Julia, also known as Julia here now.
Yeah. And let's get into the questions. When I say fountain pen, what pen do you think of?
The Pelican M800, specifically in green and black. I don't know why. I think it is a dentist doctor. It just feels very official. And yeah, this is just what I think of.
How did you get into pens?
Uh, so I usually credit with my fountain pen journey start as this pen club box from Papercraft Pantry, and they sent a Kaweco maybe 2 years ago during the summer. But before that, my professional background is like in visual arts and graphic design. And so I've been around like calligraphy nibs and dip pens, but they don't have feeds. So I was like, I can't use this for anything functional. So in the drawer you go. And then after I got the Kaweco in the box, I ended up grabbing one of those zebra fountain pens where it's like they don't, I think it's pre-filled. I've never opened one, but got one of these and I was like, oh, this is very nice and smooth to use. Maybe I'll give that Kaweco another try. And so that slid me right on into the crazy track that I'm in now. Please help.
Well, you've already answered question number 3 that your first pen was a Kaweco. Do you know what nib
Yes,
size it was or what color it was?
I have it with me. It is the iridescent pearl with a medium nib. And so I didn't even realize that there were different nib sizes. And this one was quite juicy, I thought. At the time, I was using like the Muji .38 gel pens. So this one was like, ooh, all the ink. And so, yeah, love it.
That's a
Still
color
use
I
it.
regret not getting. Such a pretty color.
It's good. It's a good one.
What's your current daily driver?
Right now I only have one because I'm in that weird in between time where I'm like uninking pens and inking up new ones. So the Estabrook SD and Peacock with a mini stub is my like go-to, at least for this week. And I really like the mini stub. It's very
Was that
nice.
the one you tuned or?
No,
Okay.
they came out with it and it was kind of like a sleeper, maybe a month ago or so. It's a stub that's ground from their fine. So usually I think stubs are ground from like medium to broad. And so, yeah, this is the mini stub. And
Honestly, I think I'd like a stub more like that. Don't like them normally. What's your favorite ink?
my favorite ink right now, and this is super currently, is Ferris Wheel Press Storied Blue. I inked it up in my
Yes,
Leonardo.
I have 2 bottles of it.
It's so good. I was not expecting to love it as much because shading, I'm like, man, with,
Mhm.
but it's blue and that seems boring, but it's just this nice, just dusty denim
Yeah,
blue. Fluff.
it's not like a ballpoint blue. It's got this like it's a muted, nice blue.
Yeah. And the shading is delightful. It's not too much where you feel like you're writing with water. So
Favorite brand?
pen brand Pilot, ink brand Diamine, just because they're just super reliable and there's a big variety of both.
Okay.
So
Vintage or modern?
love a vintage nib, love a vintage vibe, like the designs, because they are like a cool, it seems like a cool subdued sophistication to like a vintage design, but I'm gonna go with modern because they're just reliable and comfortable. Like I can take them with me on work trips and stuff and not feel like, oh my God, I'm going to ruin this pen. So modern.
Do you swatch all your inks?
Yes. The system is a mess right now, honestly, but it's in a transition period. I have this little journal that I like. Well, it's a Hobonichi Day Free that I like keep things by color, which I really like. And then I also keep things swatched out in an ink journal as I get new inks and as, I do swaps and things, I kind of keep that in a journal as well. So kind of both.
You swatch in some sort of way.
Yes, they will get swatched. Are they organized? Not as much as I want them to be.
Organization takes a bit.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you daily drive the same ink and pen all the time, or do you switch it up?
I definitely switch it up within my currently inked, and I usually have like 8 to 10 pens inked at a time. I let my main planner kind of dictate what I am inking up as far as color, and just kind of pick a pen that fits my mood for the day or whatever I have going on in my planner is kind of how I pick my pens.
Right. Do you swatch all your nibs in a way you can search through them when choosing a pen, or do you just sort of know what each nib looks like when you write with it?
Um, so kind of have a couple of things here. So I mostly know what's on everything just because they're like kids or something. I just know what's on them. But I do have a digital database on Airtable, and I keep all the pen info, like what I paid for it, what nibs on it. So that's very helpful when I go to sell pens. I also keep my Yovo nibs in a separate little drawer, and they're organized by size so that when I pick a pen that's a Yovo pen, there's no nib on it. I just pick a pen I like, and then I pick a nib that I want to go on it.
Oh,
And
that's fun.
yeah, I'll grab the drawer real quick. There's not much in it because I'm kind of packing pens to take to Yoseka already. But yeah, it's like extra fine, fine, and then it's like silver, gold, another color. So I try to,
Okay,
yeah. And then the
that's super
button
cool.
fill, I don't know if people or you know this, that like the button fill Esty, the nib comes with like this little tube on it. And
I
so
didn't know that, but I desperately want a button fill SD.
I know you need one in your life.
I know. It's like my top grail currently, but Atlas only has it in black, and I don't want it in black.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm afraid they're not going to re-release it in another color, and so I'm going to have to find it on the secondary market, and I don't want to do that. It's so much work.
People like go crazy on prices when you
Yeah.
can't find things. So, but they might, because I feel like the button fill, when they did it with the Raven and they did it with the Winter White, I feel like they did well. So, and I know they're coming out with something for the DC show. There's supposed to be a release
Yeah,
there. So maybe.
maybe. So I think if they release it at DC, Atlas isn't going to have it 2 weeks later.
They may
Right.
because they're going to Stationery Fest after.
Oh, yeah,
So,
that's true. And actually, I think Estabrook might be on the list of vendors for the sidewalk.
oh, I'm sure they are. That would just make so much sense to make that little.
I should have paid more attention to the list. There's like 30 names on it, plus 2 nib grinders.
Wow, you're gonna have a blast.
And have so much fun. I'm gonna be so tired at the end of it, but I'm gonna have so much fun. What's a pen you wish you could see in person?
Oh, the Pelican M1000 in green ray and white ray. They're just like these. They're Pelican M1000s, but they have just these strips of rodden on them. And I'm sure they like glisten and gleam when you turn them. And they're just way out of my price range. They're like 7,000, 10,000. Like, will never buy unless I sell all of my pens and buy one. But yes,
What's your current grail?
I don't have a standout grail right now, but I do have some pins on like a floating wish list that can come in and out, I guess, just depending on releases because they're constant. But like the Pilot MYU, have you heard of that one?
Think oh, it's the one that people describe like the Concorde, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like it looks like the E95S, but it's all silver and the
Yep.
nib like goes into the pin. I don't know. I just think that's super
You're the
cool.
second person in this series to name that pen.
Really?
I, I
I
can't I can't think of who the first person was, but I know I've linked it in this series already.
Wow. Yeah, I just think it looks cool and I'm a sucker for like weird nib situations. So definitely that one. Also want to like try Scribo, but I just don't I haven't fell in love with any of the resins that they have yet, and I like want to try the nib out, but that's on a list. And then the King of Pen, just because I guess I like the Sailor nib, um,
Yeah.
the Pro Gear, like the 21K nib, I do like a lot. So I just wonder about the King of Pen.
What pen would you recommend to a beginner?
Oh, so I the usual list I'm gonna spit out real quick, and then I have kind of a hot take. So
Oh, I
Twisby,
look forward to this.
yeah. So of course, like Twisby Eco, Pilot, Metropolitan, the Lamy Safari, Kakuno, all of those like great starts.
Hmm.
And this hot take is just from experience with my husband trying to get him into fountain pens. So try the Twisby Eco, and that went well. But it's when you're a beginner, like twisting off a top when you want to write is
Yeah.
kind of a pain. So that didn't go as well as I was hoping because the first pen that he got, which is this like Ryan Crusack pen he got in um, Colorado.
All
It
right.
just didn't seal very well. And so he wasn't using it every day. And the ink, would dry up if you're
Yeah.
not using it every day. So that's why I was like, okay, Twisby Eco then, because you can just not write with those forever and they'll be fine. But no, it's the twisting of the top cap. He was like, okay, meh. And so I went with the Pilot Vanishing Point with the alloy nib. It's like a cheaper one.
Okay.
Uh, I think on Amazon it's like between $60 and $70. And so you get that quick draw action. It just looks like a vanishing point. You can even put a gold nib in there if you want. But quick draw, he doesn't really feel it. I feel it. But as a beginner, I know the Con 40 is like a weird one, but I think if you're starting out, it may be worth it if you
Yeah.
don't like the extra hoopla that comes along with uncapping. Maybe you post it, maybe you don't. Like, so
Yeah. The vanishing point's on mom's list, but right now she's got Kakuno with the Con 70.
yes, that
So
I
I
think,
I I fill her pens. She goes, please fill, and I go, okay.
yeah, that's what he does too. He's like, I'm out. I'm like, yay, what color do you want this time? It's like super exciting to pick the thing.
Oh, it just gets the same color. It gets Ferris wheel press stroke of midnight. She likes the navy with the sparkly, and I'm
Oh,
like,
I love it.
it's great. But she likes the vanishing point, and so
He loves showing people too when we go like for work trips. He's like, look, it's a fountain pen.
it's a fountain pen, but it's clicky.
Yes.
What ink would you recommend to a beginner?
I will say a diamine standard ink of the person's like favorite color, but darker, so that they have something that they like, a color that they like, but something that doesn't feel too jarring. Like, so for red, writer's blood, for orange, like ochre, green, Sherwood green, blue velvet. I'm trying to think of a dark purple diamine, I think they just have one called grape.
Yeah, I think they've got one
Dark.
called grape. Do they have one called aubergine? Question mark?
Don't know.
Maybe. I was looking at Diamine swatches last night, but they were being compared to other brand swatches as well, and so now I can't remember whose swatches were whose.
Yeah. But yeah, there's just a dark color of their favorite color, standard diamine. Like 9 times out of 10, it's going to be a winner, I think.
Yep. What advice do you have for someone wanting to try out fountain pens?
Just do it. Just do it. But also ease into it because it's a deep, dark hole that can be confusing. Um, I would say be patient, be excited to learn because there's so much to learn. And it can get very intimidating and like you want to throw in the towel, but so like keep the excitement to learn. The community is just super enthusiastic in general. So if you have questions, just ask them because people will give you all the information plus information that you didn't ask for. So just be able to like filter and take in information. Um, yeah, be prepared to be inky and stay inky forever.
I had ink all the way up to my elbow yesterday.
Very inky yesterday as well.
What filling mechanism do you think is most interesting, regardless of if you like to use it or not?
The vac fillers, for sure. Just because it's like kind of a party trick if people were coming to a party and standing around my pens. Just because like you would think like, oh, ink's gonna come up now. No. Will it come up now? No. And then you just hear that click and it's just really cool. It's just a very unexpected timing, I think. So
Yeah.
yeah.
What nib size do you prefer to write with?
I am a fine first galley. Just for everyday writing. The grid spaces in my planners and journals are pretty tight, so I think fine mixed with my handwriting is a good combo. But I like all the different nib sizes for different reasons. I really like custom grinds too. Cursive smooth italic is like one of my favorite ones. And Kirk Spear has like this imperial nib, which I'm not even sure. It's stubby,
You
but like
you and you and I will need to talk about weird grinds because like Chicago's coming up and I have Matthew Chen or I have Kirk or I have both. And so once this is done, we'll talk about pen grinds
yes, yes,
because I'm
and
getting something done. And I don't know what I'm getting done. And I
oh,
don't know what I'm getting it on. I've
I
just
have a tip for that. If you do
okay.
Yovo, if you have anything with Yovo nibs, that's
Hmm.
a good call because you can swap them around to different pens or Kavekos too, because those are easily swappable. The nibs are so.
I might just buy a spare Kaweco nib and get
Mm-hmm.
something insane on it.
Yes.
A mini stub Kaweco.
Oh, I will see Kirk in October, so
Oh, now I need to find a spare Kaweco nibs. All right. Is there a style of nib you love but never use?
yeah. Techo nib is weird. The music nib is weird. The I the idea of them, cool. I just don't understand like why and how people use them. Like it just feels like more of a novelty, like I'm gonna write a headline and test it out and that's it. So I guess people in the comments, what are you using these nibs for? Help. I tried them both in Colorado and I was like, "Woo, this is weird." It's just like this odd sensation.
I know Deb has a music nib and really likes it. So
Does she write like journal with it?
I don't know. I tried hers right after it got done at Chicago. And it it was a fun experience to write with, but I don't know what I'd ever use it for.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
same.
Do you always use the same paper? If so, what paper?
Mostly I use Tomoe River paper just because it's in all of my journals and planners. The ink matches I do on Instagram, I usually do those on Rhodia paper just because I have a big pad of Rhodia paper. Have you heard of Fountain Pen Love?
Don't think so.
It is a guy that just puts together, like you can pick different samples of paper and I've met him at a show. And so he just gave me all these different samples. It's kind of like a sushi menu. You go through and pick what you want. And so for like my Ferris wheel press writing samples for the Jubilee program, I just cycle through those
Oh, okay.
just so I can try different papers. So there's some Clairefontaine, Life Bank. There's some interesting papers in there, but for the most part, Tomoe River.
All right. Do you have a least favorite ink/ink color family?
Do I do pink just because
Like all pinks or like just a certain type of pink?
I I think I'll use pink to write with, but I think just pink in general, like every other color family has some sort of like toned down, moody version of it, like deep golds or dark, the dusty dark purples.
Hmm.
But even the dusty pinks, like they could easily just be another color. Like there's not really a good moody pink, and I just may not have found like a good winner yet. But like Diamine Masquerade, I really like, but it could very well be just like a purple a, or something else. So yeah, pink.
All
Just
right. Well,
found
thanks
a
for
good
playing
one.
20 questions.
Thank you for having me. This was fun.
It was.